Well, last year in second semester, we kind of had talks about doing a personalized classroom or customized classroom. And so we put together a committee, and we kind of just had great discussions on, what will this look like, what should it look like, what should it not look like. So we had a lot of discussion about that. We also held parent meetings just to kind of inform parents about the new option that would be available. We then took parent requests into the program, and we just to see that if we had enough, want to actually fulfill a program such as this. And then we researched all summer and went to the conferences, and kind of we started and then changed things, started again, changed things again, and started things, changed things. For me, as in my classroom last year, it was the biggest challenge was getting other learners who I've always kind of sat back and, given tasks and not been the answer to all information for my students, especially last year, because I had them for 2 years. So I had them prior to that as well. So I kind of, I'm here as a tool, not as, your answer. So I took that approach. I've taken that approach for, and I did that last year. So the biggest challenge for me coming into this is it's the struggle between should I be telling them this, or should I, or should I sit back and let them struggle? And a lot of kids, hadn't experienced that yet, and they don't experience it well at first, so that was probably the biggest challenge. Sure. And then you kind of question yourself too, should I be telling them, or should I sit back? And so that was probably the biggest challenge.
I fully appreciate that. When you talk about that transition, so you started in a traditional class trying to implement some personalization.
Yep.
What were the things that you finally reached a point where you said, we really got to change this up for me to get farther? What were some of the barriers that you were running into in a traditional classroom that you see less of in this environment?
Some of just the age, I was with only second and third graders, so now that it opens it up from first through fifth graders, which would be considered first through fifth graders, you have students who, are working with, you might have a second grader in working with fifth graders on a certain skill, just because, and that's only fair to them because that's where, their learning should be at.
Sure. Do you find, well, actually, let's go back and let's have you describe the program. So if a person came in and walked in today into your setup, if they'd never seen this before, how would you describe the way you have this set up right now?
Right now, I can't promise for next week, but I can promise for today. Right now, so for our core subjects, we have, which would be reading and math, we have them into groups, and I am the facilitator for a group of 28 learners for reading. In those 28, I have, like I said, I have a first grader all the way up to the fifth graders. And on my my facilitating goes with we have created rubrics, progression rubrics based on the reading standards. So when a learner, we begin a new skill right now is point of view. So when we begin a new skill, they start at, on the rubric, they'll start at level 1, either mid-level 1 or upper level 1. And so then they'll progress through those so that they can show you mastery of the most complex most complex skill within that skill.
Sure.
So they choose their, so it's on my on PLCA is what we call it, on that portion of the room, that you'll see a lot of independent workers.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see a lot of them sending me emails asking me to check their digital portfolio that has the evidence of that skill,
mm-hmm.
and ask to be moved on. And if they're not ready to move on, I'll make comments on that. I might meet with them on that and just give them feedback as to how they can go and make that better and show true mastery
mm-hmm.
in order for them to get that next step.
When you look at that setup that you were describing where students are kind of moving at their own pace,
mm-hmm.
I think one of the concerns we hear from teachers is the idea that, well, if students only work at their own pace, they're going to get further and further and further behind. But
Mm-hmm.
what things have you put into place that would help prevent that, or how do you work with that?
So, and that'll be true for, we do have those types of students who, they would be farther and farther behind. But in that case, we just make special circumstances that they are attending a mini session, mini lesson every day. They are checked on. So they might go from a mini session given a task within that rubric, and then in 20 minutes they might be going back to another mini session to check, so that we are able to check that make sure that they're gaining progress within that skill. So I don't want to say their choices are, they still have choices and they're still able to progress at their own, but their freedoms of, they're not able to just work for a long, long period of time. Mm-hmm. They'll have frequent check-ins with a facilitator to ensure that they're gaining progress. And
what are some of the things you're doing to try to ensure depth, not just speed, that they're not going to just race through material, that they're actually going to get depth? How do you approach that? So
what I've created are we've created are those rubrics. So the rubrics are based on the standards, such as point of view, like I had said, but we'll do we have 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. And so 1s are with assistance. They can complete that standard with assistance. 2s, they will, it'll be just the basic standard. 3 will be, I think it's complex reasoning, and 4 is, I don't even know what we call it. Yep. I think I remember. Yep. So that we're not just teaching them that basic standard, that they are able to learn that basics, but that would only stop them at a 2. Mm-hmm. So then within that rubric, then they can email me and say, I'm ready for U3. So then that 3 would show evidence of deeper understanding.
Sure.
And then, or I'm ready for U4, and that would even show even deeper understanding. And we integrate a lot of it into, articles, and not just read this paragraph, but instead you go out and you find this article and you analyze the paragraph instead of me writing the never work harder than your students, right? And so then they can incorporate their interests into that art if they don't, whichever articles they choose, or
It sounds like, though, in the beginning, I'm not sure you were
working
less than the students in the beginning.
And I laugh at that because it probably never will be true. But
from your standpoint, though, what was the hard work in the beginning? What was it that was taking a lot of time getting this set up for the first time?
Getting it set up, or
Yep, and even in the first.
So probably, creating all of the rubrics, and we don't have them all created yet. Now we're just going one at a time.
Sure.
And when a student is ready, has already shown mastery of that U4, then we have to meet again and create a new one so that they can move to a different skill. So creating all of those rubrics and reflecting. That takes a lot of, bouncing.
Teacher reflection or student?
Teacher.
Okay.
Bouncing ideas off of each other and just discussing. It was a lot of discussion.
More collaboration with other teachers in this situation? Tell me more about the collaboration side.
So as of now or in the beginning?
Well, both, really.
So in the beginning, we made decisions together about how our day will look, how we have exploration in the morning with our core subjects, and then in the afternoons we'll have an enhancement so they can work on things that they're most interested in. And then, so our daily schedule, we collaborated with that. We collaborate on a daily basis about grouping and, I think this kid should go with this facilitator now because they have mastered measuring to the 4th inch. So then they'll move to the next, to a different facilitator. It's really and collaboration is probably key.
Yes.
Just so that we can make sure that every student is where they're supposed to be.
When you look at the kids that you've got, and especially when you first got started, there had to have been a transition for the kids because they were used to a more traditional, where a lot of it was given to them of what they needed to learn. How do you get students to transition to be more independent and more responsible for their learning?
Well, we're still trying for some, but it's amazing to see how far, and how much it just gives them such a boost of confidence to know that, we're just there to help. We're not there to tell all, to do all. They are in charge of their own learning. So at first it was challenging, and like you said, you see kids waiting for you to go up there, or you chose something on the board and they'd all be running, trying to copy it down, and just because that's what they're used to. And at first some, struggle with throwing all of those choices at them at once. So we kind of had to integrate, or slowly integrate some more choices, and just so that they can keep gaining confidence as being a self-learner and build on that.
Sure. Do you find that when you work with students, your role is changing in this environment compared to what it used to be?
Yeah, I do. Like I said, in my classroom last year and the year before, I did like to step back and, they would choose their articles, they would choose their own books, and we would create, show mastery of skills based on, and they'd have choices within that. But I do still think that my job has, it's evolving, it's changing, because sometimes I'll just sit at a table and I'll get 10 emails from kids, can you check and then I'll check it, and then I'll have a meeting with them, and so it's a lot. I see them taking on a lot more of the teaching, the old teaching responsibilities.
When you look at the planning you did last year to get to this year, and now that you're in this year, what do you see as your next stage? What is it that you're going to work for next that you haven't achieved yet? But what's the next piece that you're going after?
That's a good question.
But you're just coming back into it.
Yeah.
So that'll be what you're focused on right now.
Yeah. I would probably, more personalized, becoming more personalized, because I think we have them in groups, and they do independent, they do personal, they do have personal choices, but becoming more personalized, since we'll have some of them again next year. Sure. Giving them personalized tasks that aren't necessarily best for the group,
Mm-hmm.
but best for that student.
I think one of the points that teachers get nervous about even making the first step into this is, how do I know for sure where the kids are at?
Mhm.
How do you determine where the kids are at? Do you have tools that help you know what their skill level is as well as their knowledge level?
That again, we do take the STAR test, and
Mhm.
it kind of breaks them down into standards, and we can go by that. We also do math journals. So if we're introducing a new skill, we might say, on the first day we introduce fractions, we might just, every single learner that day will have a math journal that just says fractions.
Mhm.
And their job is to tell you every single thing they know about fractions.
Mhm.
So if they can tell you that, all they can tell you is draw a picture of a pie and it broken into two.
Mhm.
And then you might have learners who are multiplying and dividing fractions.
Sure.
So if they can, if they're truly telling you everything they know, then we can kind of group them based on that. And they learn really quickly that if they don't tell you everything they know and they go to a group, that they'll be placed in a group that's not best for them.
Mhm. So some of it sounds like, is based on some formal assessments,
Mhm.
and some are more just your
Yeah,
interaction
yeah,
with them. that you-
absolutely. Observations and interactions, yep.
Okay. So, with all this work, what makes it worth it? Why do all this work for this?
Just seeing the confidence in all of the learners, how much they have grown, not by any means, not just academically,
Mhm.
but how they have grown as a person.
Mm-hmm.
They have confidence now to lead class discussions. They have confidence now to go out and seek what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And that's huge.
Yeah.
They're not waiting for me to tell them what I want them to look for. Instead, they're going out and problem solving, complex thinking, and finding what they're looking for
Sure.
in all subjects, all areas.
Sure.